without further ado, I would like to introduce our keynote. He has a powerful message for us this afternoon. So I would like to invite up Joseph Mercado.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody doing tonight, all right?
All right.
Awesome. Good. We enjoying ourselves, having a good time? All right. Let's give a round of applause for Verdel. Thank you. All the great authors that were here today, providing their live testimonies, their stories, the books that they have written. I just want everybody, if we just take 1 second, if everybody could just stand up, please. Everybody's been sitting, get a little movement, blood flowing through our veins. Everybody just want to say one thing. Thank you so much, A, for being here and get some juices flowing. I just want everybody to give a quick shout out, all right? And whatever it is that you feel, whatever positive keyword comes to mind, just shout something positive, something that makes you feel good, something that tensillate your senses, something that gets your juices flowing. All right, so on that note, on the count of 3, we're just going to say whatever the first thing that comes to mind, just shout it out. 1, 2, 3. Sit. All right, everybody can sit. Thank you. So what I'd like to do is, I'd like to start out just by planting a little seed of inspiration. I'm a big believer in quotations, in wisdom, and one of my favorite is by Thomas Jefferson. And it goes a little something like this. It's honesty is the first chapter in the book of wisdom. And what I want to do today is I just want to be real with everybody. And I want to deliver not just a message, not just a crafted speech, because I don't have anything written, but just a free flow from my mind and from my heart. And just be myself to all of you. Now this path, this journey, as an author growing up, I never knew what I would become or how I would become. Okay, through my teenage years, I was a little bit of a wild child, so to speak. At the age of 23 years old, I had a car accident that left me at almost a quarter of a centimeter of death where I survived on my wrist. Otherwise, from that moment, it just takes a quarter of a centimeter to alternate your direction in life. And some of us have been through so many things. We all have collective stories and thoughts and experiences of who we become for what we've been through. And we all learn from each other on different formulated bases of thinking. We all have different angles of perception of what we believe to be true or not true. So today, my experiences are neither true nor false. Because personally, from my own path, they're only true to me from personal experience. But from you, you get to extract and you get to insert or apply where you feel will be necessary in your life. Now, for those of us here that are authors, entrepreneurs, just everyday people, we're all connected as a whole. Community is what brings forth unity. If you look at the term itself, unity is found inside that key word. And these things, such as keywords that we use on a day-to-day basis, is what enables us, each of us, to derive this energy at a certain level of vibration. So our words either give birth to low-level vibration of energy or high levels of vibration of energy. And they all manifest from where? Can anybody guess?
Words.
Close. Where do the words go? Where are they coming from?
Thoughts.
Thoughts in our mind, right? So our mind is what projects our energy. So starting out as a young entrepreneur, I was at home one day, this is back in maybe 2003, and I was at my mom's house, or I still live there, I should say, at that time, and I started going around, I started to get really bored, and I was like, I need to do something creative. So I took a pen and a notebook, and I went around the house, and I started writing down different objects. Like, let's say, for instance, this picture frame with a speaker, or this podium, or a chair. And then I started figuring things out, like, okay, what do I know about this object? So I took a keyword, I said chair. Okay, it's got 4 legs, it's got a seat, it's got stability, it needs the 4 legs for balance. So how can I create something inspirational where people, every time they sit on a chair, they're going to relate to the wisdom and feel good? Because I got one question for everybody. How many of you that are sitting here today, right in front of my very eyes, have thought a negative thought in the past 24 hours? Everybody's hand went up, right? See? And through those negative thoughts, sometimes it'll put us in a situation, if we entertain that, we start growing and developing deeper roots to our problems. And how we get out of that sometimes can be very difficult because we're so distracted by media, social media, what's going on in the world, around the world, up in space, below space, wherever the space is, things are going on. And how we deal with those things has a lot to do with our human behavior, our tendencies, or habits, again, our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. What are emotions? It's energy and motion. And how we have become influenced as children has really determined how we are today. So what I did was I've taken the keywords, going back to the chair analogy, and I just started writing it. I came up with these books. And when I put all of this database of keyword content, I call it the Undiscovered You. So what I did was when I wrote the Undiscovered You, I wanted people to really recognize how to tap into those underlying positives that resonate within each and every one of us on a consistent basis for how often we think. So today, we have a Long Island Author Showcase. So what I want to do is I just want to give a little example and just free flow with the term Author Showcase. See, each of you are a published author before any book is written. Why? Because it's already inscribed within you, within your soul, within your spirit. It's encoded in your DNA to have these experiences. So they're already written on a slate. For some, it may be a slate that we cannot physically see. But through faith, we can see things spiritually. And as we tend to go through these experiences in life, we collectively absorb and take this layers of energy and compile it into something. But sometimes we don't know what that something is. We're unsure. Or there's so much fog in our membranes, we don't have the clarity. The clarity for what? To gain certainty. That certainty allows us to believe in who we are, who we become. All these things that we're told as kids, we're not going to be good enough, it's not going to happen, you're not going to do it. Who are you to do this? What makes you credible to be on that stage, to speak to anybody? I remember being in the 6th grade, and a teacher of mine, for some reason, just had it out for me. Maybe it was my perception, but I was just going back based on her actions and her behavior towards me. Now, some of you may be able to relate to an instance, whether it's a teacher, a bully in school, or maybe it's just for your own self-talk. We become our own enemies at best. And I remember her telling me, she said, Joseph, she said, you're just not smart enough to keep up with the other kids. You're just not bright enough to be with the regular students. I have to put you in modified classes. It's a step above special ed, but you know what? You're going to be okay, and you'll make it one of these days, but you need to be with kids at a lower level. And this is what she was telling me. Now, going home with that thought, thinking, man, how can I outwit this lady the next day? Smarten up a little bit, gain some knowledge, and, but at 10, 11 years old, I'm thinking, okay. So, eventually, that things like that, those seeds develop. They harvest either a tree of life within us or a tree of death. But here's the thing. In life, we need both forms of energy, both oppositional forces. Light and darkness. If we don't accept our darkness, how are we supposed to really find and enter into the light? Right? So, because we are a light. Each of us are a lantern in our experiences, through the different negatives. And in a minute, I'm going to show you how to replace those negatives using the universal law of replacement. So when we become that beacon of light, and we're able to help other people see the way for the path that they're traveling, we fulfill our purpose, and we become what we're purposed to be. Because each of you, no matter what anybody has ever told you in your life, you are special, you are loved, and you have a valuable purpose that is not only meaningful, that is not only enlightening or positive, but it's something that's gravitating. And what does that mean? It's gravitating to your inner force, to redirect that and put that out in the universe. So we attract. Have you ever heard the law of attraction? Raise your hand, everybody, pretty much, a few people. So the law of attraction, of course, tells us what we, like attracts like, love attracts love. And people say, how do we figure this out? If we're always thinking, if we're always attracting a negative lifestyle, why does this happen to me kind of thing, then what do we do about that? So what I do is I came up with this universal term called the law of replacement. Now, going back to the basics, because I believe as an author, to help authors become successful, we have to learn how to deal with the negatives. When you first write your book, right, the first thing that comes to mind is, I don't know what to do. What publishers do I talk to? How do I get it written? Where do I start? How do I get it printed? You know, do I go into a book signing right away? You know, there's a sequence. And inside the sequence, this orderly conduct in how we live and how we act and how we conduct ourselves is very important. So sometimes, you know, I remember, I'll give you a little story, and I'll go into the law of replacement in a second. But I remember when I first started out, I called up 700 publishing houses across the nation and overseas. I asked them, I had a list of 10 questions, and I asked them all the same questions. Took all these notes and realized, wow, I have to give up almost 80% royalties to these people. And what is in it for me? I worked so hard, almost 10 years, to put these series together. So what I did was I got a little crafty. I decided to go open up a limited liability company, Mastermind Publishing, open up my own publishing house. And when I did the math, I figured out that I get to keep 72% of the marital profits, which is a lot more than what I think was 8 to 12% that they wanted to give me, maybe 20% at max. So what I did was I started to get a little creative. And I suggest some of you borrow this tactic for your own books, for those that have written a book or writing a book in the audience. So I looked at other authors' websites online on the internet. Okay, my background is a little bit of internet marketing. And what I did was I started noticing what they were doing wrong. So instead of calling them up and saying, hey, you know, trying to sell my services or anything, I called them up and I said, you know, I was just on your website, I'm an author, I'm a self-published author, I let them know exactly what I was doing. So there was no catch-22 or nothing off the fly that would scare them off. And I said, hey, listen, I want to help you out. I noticed a few things that would drive more traffic, because if you drive the right traffic to the site, have a unique visitor, you get what? You get sales. So what I did was I bartered. I bartered my knowledge. So instead of charging them, and instead of saying, you know what, give me $200 for the hour, I said, just support my book and what I do. I'll support you by helping you with knowledge and information that you don't have. So it worked out. It was an even bartership. So with my knowledge and information, I was able to sell my first 100 books, and I just kept doing that and building it up. And then getting it out there, printing from home, you know, staying up until 3, 4, 5, 6 in the morning, doing what it takes. You know, content marketing. This is another strategy for authors that I want you to pick up and take mental notes. You know, the content. Content is so rich, it's so juicy. When you have a book, what you can do with it when you strip it down into layers, and you start syndicating that content, that information, to different directories where people share, easine publishers, you have other authors, you have editors. There's hundreds of thousands floating around the internet that are going to share your information. It's just knowing where to put it. Writing an article. An article is so potently powerful. It's an active advertisement that it's long term, but at the same time, you know, you have something where you're planting seeds. You know, video marketing is another way. Even if it's a snippet where you read a little bit about a chapter or a page in your book, get it out there, put it on YouTube, build up your channel, start getting, you know, recognized by maybe people in other audiences that maybe can cross-connect you or cross-promote you, to joint venture opportunities. And this is how you make things happen. You go out and you build relationships with people that you know and don't know. And sometimes, you know what I learned? I learned that the answer is always no until you ask. And sometimes you just gotta put aside the fear of rejection. And don't forget getting on the phones. I used to sweat, I used to be nervous, I used to dial the number, hang up the phone, pick it back up, call again. They say, you just called? No, let's go solicitor. So you gotta do what it takes to make it happen. And that's the key term, is making things happen when sometimes you don't feel like it, or you know, you're dragging your feet to get out of bed. And then one thing I'm gonna share with everybody, if you're not getting excited in the morning, first thing about what you love to do as a human being, as an entrepreneur, as an author, you might be in the wrong field or take a different direction. Or if not, maybe there's just a fine tweak that it's going to take for something to resonate. So for it to resonate, marinate, it'll manifest into a greater degree of influence and positivity. Because these are all underlying factors that we deal with as people, as business professionals, and it's important. But what I want to do is, I actually would like to, from the 6 authors that were up here, I'd like to ask one of you, if you don't mind, what was your greatest challenge that you felt to help with people in the audience when you were publishing your book? What is one challenge that you found that was difficult to overcome, if you don't mind?
Making sure that they understood from our perspective about what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, getting your vision.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Articulating the message of the book in a way where it will be received and understood and buyable to the audience. That was the challenge for me.
Okay, excellent. And a good way to overcome that challenge, even before you get on the phone or anybody with a publishing house or a publisher, whether you have your own self-publishing company, you know what you do? You make a video. Make a personal video, just you in front of the camera, the computer, or the phone, and talk about your vision, right? Exemplify, define it, get a little deep on it, and then send that video to the publishing house, because if they don't get you on the video, they're not going to get you on the phone call. And I learned that sometimes with videos, it saves the time. It saves you time, because how many know that time is so important? We all get, there's one thing we all have in common. We all get 24 hours in a day, and we all breathe and share the same oxygen, right? So, with that being said is, be very cautious with your time and strategic. Create videos, snippets of videos, and get it out there. Don't worry about if it has to be spectacular or look so great or it has to be this way. And for authors that are out there and that are learning and that want to really experience and explore how to get your story out, this is what you do. Instead of worrying about how to write a 200, 300 page book, one a week, you're going to write one article. A 500 to 700 word article. You do that once a week for 10 weeks. After the 10th week, you're going to have 10 articles. You write them on different areas of your life of what you've experienced. Those 10 articles combined may very well give you 10 chapters. And guess what? At the end of 10 weeks, you already have a book. You didn't think about it because you're so busy being distracted. Now, distractions could be positive or negative. Distractions, if they're negative, will create destruction. Distraction, if looked upon as positive, will create construction. And that's what we want. We want to be able to construct within ourselves. It all starts in here, and inside our system. We all have a system, whether it's a belief system, a thought system, an emotional system. And also be very leery how you get distracted by other people. Don't let people puke negative thoughts into your ear. When we have a negative, when somebody says, I really doubt you're going to get that book off the ground. I really doubt you're going to become a bestseller. I really doubt you have what it takes to write a story. Law of replacement. Turn doubt into encouragement. If that's self-doubt, make it self-encouraging. Tell yourself, I am going to make it happen. I am going to write that book. I am going to get the chapter done tonight. I am going to reach out to 100 people this week or per day. Whatever the case may be. Just whatever negatives look to creep and seep into the cracks and crevices of your mind. You want to be sure that you train your brain through redundancy. Redundancy is the mother to all learning, as comprehension is the father to all understanding. And with that being said, we're able to replace any underlying negative with a perspective positive as long as it's pointed in a positive direction. Because sometimes those negatives can be very good. As long as we don't make it a permanent lifestyle, they can catapult us where we are in our current position, allow that repositioning to take place so we regain our focus and stay on that straight path of life. Because we're all on a mission. We all have a vision, and we're all walking a mission within this life. And where it takes us, that's the beauty of the journey. Right? So, with that being said, I want somebody just to throw up, give me, let's see, a random person. You, sir, with the blue shirt. Yes, you. I'd just like to give me one key word that's in your mind right now.
Family.
Family. It's a very important key word. Because you know what, right now, this may be my first time here, and I've met all of you, or some of you, for the first time. But guess what? We're all family. Whether we like it or not, whether we think so or not, we're all connected at the end of the day. Family is the leading source to unity. For it wasn't for family, we cannot gather here and join venture into one single chord of unity. If it wasn't for family, we cannot have that love that circulates and that syndicates and that perpetuates a sincere, positive line of energy that gives us that primary ability and focus to see all of us as one whole, encompassed into oneness. And that's who we are. And I just want to let everybody know that it's such a pleasure to be here this evening. And I'm so thankful for this opportunity because I love what I do. And for each of you, no matter what you do, just make sure you love what you do. And for those authors that are looking to get things off the ground, here's what I suggest. open up your own publishing company, write your own content, step by step, day by day. Don't worry about how much you got to get done in 24 hours, okay? Because it'll never happen. After 23 years, 23 books later, and 20 years later, I'm still writing, I'm still coming up with things, and it just doesn't change because we're always evolving, because we're always educating, we're always getting educated. Going back to the mentor and the mentee, right? And all these things are very important. But there was something that was mentioned earlier by Felicia, by taking a negative and turning it into a positive. So I just wanted to share real quick my childhood. I wasn't always the greatest in school, and I used to come home a lot with a lot of F's. And I was just too busy out hanging out, playing handball, or doing things out of school, and I didn't care about studying. So every time I come home, my father would be like, "What are you doing? Another F?" I'm like, "Oh, Dad, what do you mean? That means fantastic." What are you nuts? Go to your room. Go study. You're punished. So talking about reciprocating, a negative to a positive, is sometimes it's those little things and it's the biggest things. And when you come up against those challenges, remember, inside challenge, you're going to find the word change. There's always great change to every negative challenge. It's just a matter of how we see it. It's just perspective once again. But, during those challenges, don't convince yourself or trick yourself out when it comes to getting to where you want to go. Because if you just keep up that grind and keep going, many of you might not even believe this, but there are times where I nearly lost everything, didn't have anything. I really didn't. I was nearly homeless at one point, sleeping in the street and in the parking lot by my grandmother's house because I had nowhere to go because I'd given up everything and spent every dime to make this opportunity, this business, this vision, this dream come to fruition. And sometimes we don't talk about certain things, but we have to humble ourselves and show that we're not just, it's one thing to be a professional, but it's another thing to be a person, a live human being. After that car accident, I don't know what was going to happen. I had a very heavy pill addiction, and I'll be honest with that. And you say, wow, this is how you take authority over your mind with that. You don't. Either you keep doing what you're doing, you go down the dark road, and you don't make it, because one day comes a day where you just don't wake up. And that almost happened on several occasions, and I'm very thankful to God for this day that I still have that breath and oxygen. Every day I wake up, I open my eyes, I'm thankful for another moment, another breath that day.
Amen.
And I just want to say that sometimes it takes that one moment, whereas your last moment, to where you really get it, and you make things happen, and you wake up. So with all those, any authors that, like I said, open up a limited liability company, start getting your own content, don't worry about the book, before you know it, you have a book already constructed. And the other thing is, I want to say something about getting your information protected. Copyright. I remember I called up a couple of copyright attorneys, right? You know what they want to charge me? One guy was, just for copyright, $750. When I researched and figured it out myself, another guy is $350, $300. I said, I'm on a low budget. My budget was like nearly zero. I said, how do you start something with no capital? You always have, if you don't have capital, you have time. Time is of the essence. Utilize your time wisely. Okay? What I did after I had that addiction, you know what I did? I invested some capital, some money that I saved, and I bought some home study courses by Brian Tracy and Anthony Robbins. And, ever since I was a child, my first book that I read was Unlimited Power at age 11. And when I was 22, 23 years old, and I was going through that after the accident, and I was coming off the medicine, it was just so difficult. And I started getting these withdrawals. And what I did was, instead of going to see a doctor, see a therapist, and I'm not saying anything's wrong with that, because everybody's got their own path and how they deal with their issues. But what I did was, I went and I got all this information, all these home study courses. And I spent, a few $1,000s, and I stayed home for a year. I didn't go out, didn't date. I just solely worked on myself. And I reprogrammed and reconditioned my mind out of those chemicals. I restructured the molecular compounds that were in my brain from the drugs. And I took one computer here, one computer here, and one computer here. I had Brian Tracy, I listened to little T.D. Jakes, little biblical preacher, and I had a little bit of Tony Robbins to my left. And I had a little bit of some meditation, just some instrumental waves going on. I had all of those three going on. I call it bifold and trifold thinking. And what it is when you listen to different forms, it's a methodology and how you grasp and retain information. So my retention rate today is 90%. Anything that's interest to me, I can retain and remember for the rest of my life, 90%. The other 10%, I leave the room to forget certain things, right? Not everything's important. So when I did that and I reconditioned my brain, it allowed me to get into a different routine, a different structure of life. And I was able to rehearse the information that was being fed to me by verbatim at the end of all the videos. And when I was doing that, I kept doing that repetitively. So the point of me telling you this story, the moral of it, is that sometimes behind closed doors, we have certain things that we need to get through. Find what works for you, your best method of practice. And that in itself will help replace the negatives you face and turn them into positive results. And that, ladies and gentlemen, authors and entrepreneurs, is how you take authority over your mind in the marketplace as an author. So any questions or comments, I'd just love you to come visit me at the table, check out the Undiscovered You, keyword quote books. And again, just want to thank everybody for being here, for your time and attention. Thank you.